Makes me like want to do a podcast.
Yeah, we should just start one.
Dude, we should. So we're going to do something a little different. Carlos is with me today. Well, Carlos is always with me. He's always behind the camera. And I had this idea. I told him and he's like, all right, let's do it. Basically, like, we just want to make a video. Why are we doing this? Why are you seeing all these behind the brand videos? When we hired Carlos to do this, it was one reason. He is one of the most creative people I know. And I knew if we wanted to tell this story, we haven't told we're going on 12 years. We haven't really documented the day in, day out of the great P&W. So when we decided to go all in, like, it's every single week. Carlos and I are together filming, editing, and we're about 4 months in now. It's been super rewarding. And I thought, let's do a behind the brand. Like, let's talk with Carlos about, like, what is it like to be a creative here in this area, here in Spokane? What's your creative process? What's it like working with the great P&W? Because we're not his only client. He works with a lot of other companies, a lot of other people. So yeah, I thought we would just rip on this. I got some questions for him. Before we get started, one, Carlos, I just got to say, like, thank you. This has been one of the funnest projects we've taken on, with Behind the Brand, and you brought a lot of life to it. So
well, thank you for reaching out, and you had an idea and you had a choice and a decision, and you just went for that instead of telling me that you had people in line. Like, hey, if it doesn't work, we got other people. It's like, thanks for being like, yo, we want you.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, we've actually hired Carlos over the years. He'll do photo shoots for us, do video shoots. We have people in-house. We hire freelancers. We just try to squeeze as much creativity into this brand as we can. So yeah, so when I knew we wanted to do this project, there was a no-brainer. There was nobody else. So yeah, man, we're going to get into it. I get this question a lot, and I see this in you too. So, like, work-life balance, like, what are your thoughts? Obviously, your days look a lot different than a normal 9-to-5 person. What is your approach? Is there a work-life balance? Do you try to keep it? What's that like?
I think it's really interesting being around you so much lately since we've been doing this, because I have actually had this conversation with my best friend Austin about how work-life balance is one. And then you had said that weeks into us starting to do all these vlogs, and you're like, there is no work-life balance. It should be cohesive. It's just, it all mends. It's you work hard and then you play hard. You go home and then it all works together, right? Because separating it is really hard for me to keep things like it's only work, because there's so many things to do all the time. I can't stop thinking about what needs to happen next. And my girlfriend now actually keeps telling me, can you stop thinking about, like, what to shoot next, your next project, your next anything? I can't. And so then I just have to keep it, like, somehow low-key and just keep things on the back burner. And that's where I feel like the work-life balance is, like, in that sense, I don't know how to explain it,
it's not
one or the
thing.
other.
It's just, this is life, this is work, and I see work as, anything you're putting any amount of effort to. And I will say it resonates with me when you're saying, you're constantly thinking, and your girlfriend's like, hey man, like, you're always going, like, it is hard. Like, my wife will be like, I can tell your brain is somewhere else. Like, hey, we are at dinner with family, kind of a thing. And I'm like, yes, but you don't understand the 500 things on my list to do. But it's also, what's cool about that is, like, it's not so much like a stressful spot. It's like you just love it. So you're constantly thinking about what's the next creative thing? What's the creative projects we're on? And it's honestly kind of this really beautiful space that I feel like people should live in, where, like, work and life, or you can hear Johnny ripping that tape, where, like, work and life do just feel one and the same. Nothing feels like work. Everything's life. It's hard sometimes, but what you said definitely resonates with me for sure. So
I do want to make one statement on this, and this is no jab at anybody specific. Some of you who already know me will know who I'm talking about. But
let's hear it.
But I think I told you this on one of our vlog trips, that work-life balance became very obviously comfortably one thing once I found somebody who was encouraging me always. So my girlfriend, she'll be like, hey, can you just stop for a sec? But she really understands. Like, when we go, she goes, hey, take a break from the computer. Let's go shopping. I just want to go look at clothes. And we're out looking for clothes. And then I just see a couch. I'm like, I need to shoot somebody right here. This is the coolest couch. Like my brain's always looking for a cool spot for either a video shoot or a photo shoot, right? It's like, it's always observing, like a skateboarder sees a handrail.
Try to find a skate spot. You're always kind of looking for spots. Yeah, totally.
And then there was points in my life where I was with somebody, like there was no encouragement behind like my craft, and it would it would stump me, you know, like, so now I have to turn it off, and now I feel bundled up, and I just need to get out, and then I'm not good in the relationship because I'm upset that I can't let my passion out, you know?
Oh, that's huge. I mean, that's everything. That's why I can say my wife and my kids are my biggest fans, for sure. And it changes everything, you know. And I think there are, I don't think it's for everybody. I'm not going to make any assumptions that like everybody should have this perfect, like everything's work, everything's life. Definitely there are times when I think about a 9 to 5 sounds really nice. Like the thought that I used to be able to be like, hey, I'm going on vacation now, see you guys in a week.
I'm clocking out for real.
And like not an email, not a nothing. I was just like, work wasn't a thing. I got to go do the vacation. But for me, and I think for somebody like you don't want that. We're not pursuing that. Our goals are different. And our lives look vastly different because our goals are different, you know. Where we feel comfortable in life is just constantly creating and doing, and we don't want to shut it off. And if we do want to shut it off, like we can. We do. Like, yeah, you know, obviously there's always emails and stuff to get to, but so next one, obviously, you know, when we approach a shoot, you know, sometimes it's just on the fly, like let's just go. Sometimes it's day of, we got to rip real quick, but they're bigger, they're planned out, you know, we're storyboarding these. And so I would just curious to kind of dive into your mind a little bit, like your process, because I feel like I see it, and I know we talk a lot while you're shooting. You know, I see your wheels turning while you're shooting. I'm like, man, it looks like he's editing this right now in real time as he's shooting it. So obviously I know your wheels are always going, you know, leading up to a shoot, during a shoot. So I just wanted viewers can say, like, what is your process? What's going through your head? Because you really do have a unique style. We don't always shoot that way. But when I'm like, hey, I want 100% Carlos, like free reign, you go there. What's your process when you have a project brought to you?
Okay. So first I do ask if they have an idea, so that way I can feed off of that. Like, do you want to present anything that you have in mind, or do you want me to fully come up with a concept based around these things that you, like, key points? I've actually noticed lately that I try to storyboard, but my storyboard is actually, it lacks a lot of the creativity, because the creativity comes in the time of filming. I go there and I just say, we're gonna hit your key points. I'm gonna do it all in my head. And like you said, like I'm literally listening to music in my head, or even sound effects for the sound design that comes with it. It's all happening in my head as I film. That's just it all. Like right now, I feel like I'm in another world, you know? Yeah, and just envisioning it, and just really grateful that some people can just say, okay, I'll trust you. And that's the hardest part for me. I feel like trying to pitch that. People want a storyboard, they want a mood board, and I'm like, listen, just trust my vision. It's all in here. If I put it down, I feel like I'm locked in, and then it's not actually, I don't branch out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If it's in paper, it's hard for me to branch out.
Yeah. Like I know, like when we come up with something, we'll kind of broadly be like, okay, here's kind of the outline of what we're gonna do, or where we're gonna go, so that you kind of know what the approach is.
Yeah.
And then I'm excited to see, like, then by the time it gets kicked out the other side, once it goes through the machine that is Carlos Antwuan on the other side, it's like, oh, sick. But I don't have any worries about what that's going to be. Like, I know you well enough, I know your work, that it's like, this is going to be dope. And as long as we hit those points, boom, we're good, you know?
Yeah.
So with that knowing, at the same time you're being creative, especially when I've seen you when we're traveling. I mean, you have multiple cameras, you got photos, stuff on your hip, even switching lenses or, you know, filters and stuff on your camera, you got audio. There's a lot of like technical side that goes with it. And I know for those who don't know, I actually got my start in graphic design, and I was a videographer for years. People come up to you and be like, oh, you have a big camera, you must have good work or something, because they all see the gear. Yeah. You're like, oh, big camera, cool. Is gear really important? You have, like, what's that balance between creativity and gear? What's your thoughts on that?
So I guess it all comes down to how you want the end product to look. If you have a certain look that you're going for, you need to know how to use the equipment that you're investing in to get that look. Because sometimes you can't get it from a phone, but you can tell a great story with your phone. And there's a lot of people out there just putting stuff on like your daily stuff on Instagram stories, and just watching through that is a better story than people who just bought an 8K camera. They think that the story is better because it is 8K.
So you're saying like it's the foundation. So storytelling is the most important, whether it's phone or gear. Basically, you're saying if the story's better, the phone is better. When you have both, when you're a great storyteller, you have all the gear at your fingertips. I mean, I'm assuming that's kind of the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah. I mean, the storyboard or storytelling is definitely something that I feel like every filmmaker or videographer should nail at least 50%. Be confident and be like, this is how to tell the story. That way you can use anything. You know, you can do anything to get that story out there. When it comes to the gear, I think that for me, like you said, well, that's a big camera. Some people are like, wow, that's impressive. There's a game I play. There's a game where I say, if I carry this around like this, it gives me everything that I need. But with this looking this way, people stop and they appreciate and they value me all of a sudden. And then it's a good conversation starter for me to be like, hey, hire me.
It happens all the time. When we're out filming, especially when we're traveling, people are like, they think I'm like some type of celebrity. Is this guy a professional this or what's? I'm like, nope, not at all.
Like, okay, this is a prop to me. Okay, because we're shooting this on literally just a body and a lens. And sometimes I do just that when I feel like we're going to be moving around a lot. Like, you know, like I've shot the last few vlogs just with just a body and a lens and not this whole thing. Like, this is a prop just to show you that I take my craft seriously, even though I literally do.
So just so people know, so you're saying body and lens, but like this one's like, I'm seeing the battery pack, you got the monitor, you got a whole other shotgun mic. We typically run that as a backup because we're typically mic'd up, and the big plate on the bottom, like that thing's rigged up. Yeah, you're saying we're really simple over here, just a lens and a body.
Yeah, and you can do I don't need all of this. It's just excessive, and it makes it look cool, and it makes me feel cool, and it doesn't affect my work at all. Yeah, you know.
I mean, it does serve a purpose. I feel like using the monitor, having that huge battery pack. It's not
convenient.
It isn't. Yeah, it's convenient, but you don't need that to be creative. You can have the same output with just the body and the lens. Obviously, the mics and stuff, it helps. But at the core, it's storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
You got some good gear, but we have some professional video.
Yeah.
Cool. And then from there, any like mistakes creatively you feel like? What's like one of the biggest things you've done in your career where you're like, oh man, I forgot this, or something happened maybe out of your control? Or is there just anything creative that you feel like, obviously we like to say there's no mistakes if we learn from it, but like what would be a mistake you feel like you've made and you've learned from?
So the biggest one is getting so engulfed and lost in the creative process in my brain at the shoot, at the time of real-time shooting, that I'm autopiloting the shutter or the record button. I won't actually hit the record button, and I find out when I get to the computer. It's either that or I forget to stop recording, and then so when I go to record at the next shot, I stop the recording, and there's a 5-minute clip on my of me just walking around. Yeah, so I'd say like that's more of like a technical fault, but like it's still it definitely hit my creativity real negatively later on. You know?
Oh my gosh, that's the worst. You go back to footage and you realize, oh, I got all the in between, you know, or when you realize it before you even get all the footage back, like, I know what I've done here. You know, how bad is it? How many times did I do this? You know.
Back to the whole like the gear part. I would say that's probably the biggest part of having the screen or the field monitor is not necessarily for the convenience of seeing what I'm shooting, but I can see if I'm recording without having to look at like, am I recording? You know, like so. That's definitely been a help since I keep that on there.
I mean, that can save an entire shoot. You have a client, and then like that's worth its weight in gold. Yep. Okay.
One that I live with intentionally and just, you know, like I willingly make this mistake and live with this mistake, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. The game of following and conforming to trends. It's a really weird place, you know, because everything is trending and always evolving every day now. It's hard to stay up with that, and I don't want to. I'll take, you know, taking what I see as a trend and then trying to make it better my brain and then trying to do that myself instead of saying like, okay, this is what everyone's doing in this way, so let's just follow it. It's like, how can I do that and make it different and better? So I've been doing a lot of my artistic taste on photo and video, and cool people like it, you know, other artists like it, but I don't get much traction from, your regular consumer.
Like on Instagram.
On Instagram, I'm
Yep,
sorry, yeah, on
yep.
Instagram, or really, if you just go look at my portfolio, people are like, oh, cool, creative, that's nice,
Yeah.
right? Like, and then one time I was like, okay, let's see what happens when I post this. This is a regular photo that I took. It's pretty basic. I feel like the creativity was there, but it falls in line with what's trending right now.
Yeah. So you intentionally like, okay, I'm going to go with the trends. I'm
Yeah.
going to kind of not do my typical style.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what everybody else likes
Exactly, yeah.
and just see. Like,
And I got a lot of inquiries
Oh my
or
gosh.
inquires or whatever you call them. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh man, I've been waiting for you to drop something like this. I'm like, waiting for me? Would Wes been sucking or something? You know, like,
Yeah.
like I'm just like, he's like, they're all just waiting. Like, come on, you got it, you got it. I'm
Oh
like,
my
I'm
gosh.
trying to be ahead. You just wait. I'm serious.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm talking about, and you're one of these people that are following my
Yeah.
Instagram, you wait. When you start seeing these trends hit Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, you're gonna be like, oh shit, he was doing that like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You just wait.
I mean, I know we talk about that because you really do have a certain the way your camera moves are, the way you edit. You know, eventually it's gonna catch on, and people are gonna be able to mimic it. But what the greatest thing is like the X factor in the equation. Kind of like we've talked about this. Our relationship is very much like a film or skateboarder. You get comfortable. Like it's not just the way you film. It's who you are. Like it's your work ethic. When we go on shoots, like your camera barely leaves your hands.
Yeah.
And I even had to say like, hey man, like put the camera down. Let's go get dinner and just leave this thing at the hotel. And you're like, nah, dude, I gotta have a camera. I need to at least be strapped up at least one camera, And that's what I love about you. And I think that's a huge difference. I think that's where people aren't willing to put in the work, or they might say they love it, but it's like, do they really, really love it? Because you can get good at a craft and not love it, That's one thing I really value about you. You do bring this X factor, and like you're saying, that trend, like people are going to try to rip it off. It will get to that point, but what are you doing to stay ahead of that? And at the end of the day, like nobody's going to be Carlos, which is something is awesome.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this, like not doing what's trendy, what is, and then you think of the bigger picture of society, or like what does your family think you should do, friends and family, and then it's like being your truest self is some of the hardest things to accomplish, and sometimes it's okay to be your true self and be your most true creative person. You have to sacrifice, like, I'm not going to play the game just to get the likes. Like,
right.
I'm not going to do some stupid dance on TikTok because that's just not me. That was one thing, like, for us, from a brand standpoint, we've never done TikTok because we don't understand it. It's not us, and I see what's going on in that space. I'm like, that's not
even
not
though it could, but you're like, it's
just not our space.
No interest. Like
we're not going to do that stuff. Like I don't even think we go try to find our lane on there. I could be wrong. I could completely change, but my perspective has been like, that's not us. We don't even play in that arena. Maybe I can find a way that it does align with the brand, but
it would eventually ultimately end up being your own way, not like, heck, like you said, all right, cool, let's just start tapping into these trendy dances and like start doing some silly shit.
I see it where they're like pointing.
Or
gosh, it's so cringy.
Yeah. How to own a business.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, let's just swipe on there.
Yeah, and I feel like what we've been doing with the behind the brand stuff has been so authentic. I feel like you've captured all these moments. For the most part is pretty unfiltered. Some of it we edit out, obviously. I think you've really caught an extremely authentic version of our brand. So
I do want to clarify this. When I say that I'm trying to think outside the box and that I'm not conforming to the trends, I do want to make sure that this is like that statement is not like, oh, I'm like better and think that I'm thinking of what you're not thinking. The thing is, like, I follow people online that I know every time I see their post, it's going to inspire me, and I'm going to go do that. So I do, it's impossible for the human brain to literally create something. We have to see something and then we take it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing what's happening in other countries and really like heavy hitter like cities, where that works. Yeah. And so I want to do that, bring that here because nobody's doing it here.
Yeah.
And Spokane, I don't know if you know this, but is roughly 2 to 5 years behind the trends a lot of the times, I'd say right now it's getting a lot better because of Instagram and TikTok, and people have the access to see what's cool, but still Spokane itself has always been a little bit behind. So I want to be ahead.
Yeah.
That's it. But I'm not
I think you're the best, man. I'm gonna say you're doing it.
Thanks.
Makes me want to do a podcast.
Yeah. We should just start one.
Dude, we should
just do it. I mean, we'd have to carve out some time,
but if we brought guests on and stuff,
I think that people would like to do that.
This is sick. you and I host a podcast. We bring people on and we ask them fucking questions.
Well, but I mean, your credibility, though, is what I'm saying. Because of the brand, it's like, yeah, let's fucking do it, you know? Like, but anyways.
I know, it's been brought up a handful of times. But let's do a podcast. You should do a podcast. And I'm like, dude, I don't have time to barely tie my own shoes. So now, you know, we're just kind of wrapping this up where, you know, we're a few months into this now, and we've been all over the place. We have a trip to Whitefish here in 2 weekends. Yeah, 2 weeks, got another trip. And another shoot. It's going to be a blast. Whitefish is beautiful. They have snow, and we need to go there to go shoot our holiday stuff because we don't have snow here. And because we shot our holiday stuff with no snow, but still looks good. But we need some more snow.
And it was warm.
It was warm.
Up in the mountains. Like, what the hell?
Add the cooling filter to it so it looks a little colder, and then AI some snow in the photos. But like, I'm just curious your perspective now, because I've just been living this for the last dozen years of my life. Like, what's been like the highlight, or maybe a few highlights for you of just shooting this stuff? Because I really enjoy us hanging out, shooting it. It's been a ton of fun. I think for me, actually, I'm just going to answer real quick for myself. When we went to Seattle with you and Danny and I was one of the most enjoyable trips. I mean, just the time spent in the car was honestly some of the funnest. We went and shot with Gianna. Nuts. Yeah, it was just such good conversation. Like that was, which Danny's coming with us to Whitefish.
Oh, we got confirmation.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Danny, right on, man. Can't wait to...
Yes.
Or I guess this might come out after the trip. So hell yeah, glad you came.
Yeah, I guess we don't know when this is coming out, so we'll get to talk about aliens and all types of stuff some more. So
4.5 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours plus of straight talking.
Yeah,
it's like solid all the way from here to Seattle.
Yeah.
Spoke the whole time.
Yeah,
all of us.
It was awesome. It was no awkward silence. It was, it was great. So I'm just, what's your takeaways? What's your kind of highlights? What, you know, obviously we've done some cool stuff like so far. Like, what's been fun? I mean, obviously we've worked together, but not in this capacity. Not like we're together every single week. Like, yeah.
I think that I learned most about my gear and just continuously getting better at what to shoot, when to shoot, how to shoot it, and then what to shoot it with. You know, I feel like at first I was like a one camera build kind of guy. I was like, I got it, I can do it. And then I'm like, no, I need to do other things now, you know? And then we actually had that conversation before I actually started. And I said, this is what I do. Yeah. And then you said, I don't believe you. And then I was like, okay, thanks. But you saw my potential and I ran with it, and I expanded like how to take on things with your brand, with just what we're doing, and also let that translate and convert into my outside clients. Yeah, no, that's funny. That's cool. I forgot we had that conversation where you're like, hey, I don't believe you.
You're like, this is you straight up told me, like, you looked me in the face. You're like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I shoot, and I did. I said, I don't believe you. I think you're so much more creative than that. I think you're putting yourself in a box. And I said something like, I think we could task you to go shoot cats, and you would love it. Whatever the analogy was, and it's so true. Like, you really do just love being creative. Whatever the task is, you know, big or small, you really are able to take some of the most mundane things and make them cool. And I think that's goes back to storytelling. You're constantly going and going, and oh man, I just want to thank you. It's been such a blast shooting. I'm excited for all the stuff we have coming up. Thank you for letting me pick your brain for a minute and get everybody else to kind of get an insight into what's this creative approach in general, what's our approach on behind the brand, and kind of a first go at talking to the cameras and stuff. So it's I love it. This is pretty good. Hopefully other people enjoy it. Yeah. Hopefully they learn a little bit more about us. You know, and then take that and, like, I guess maybe have a different form of value for the vlogs that we do together, or anything that we do together. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. All right, man. On to the next one. In order to Mike. The horns. The horn man. Sick. Oh yeah.